Hi, and welcome to the Drum Woodshed Channel. I'm Darren Scorza, and today we're going to do an exercise called the BD a la DG exercise. The BD stands for bass drum, and DG stands for David Garibaldi. And although Garibaldi is a major influence on not only my playing, but this exercise, there's some other influences that are going to come into play here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So a while back, I was playing a gig, and I had a student in attendance. The next week during our lesson, he had asked me about a lick that I played a couple of times, and if I could show him what it was and maybe give him some exercises to develop it. After a little bit of discussion, we kind of figured out that the fill was something along the lines of a right hand and bass drum in between, kind of single stroke thing that I would move around the drums and maybe hit the hi-hat with my left hand, something like this. Something along that line. When I look back at it, actually, I probably stole this thing from the great Mark Walker. There's this great video, which maybe I'll put a link in the comments when I'm done with this, where he's doing a recording session with the great band Oregon, and he's in the middle of a very good solo, and all of a sudden he starts whipping this out much faster than I just did. But that's why I created the exercise, because I needed to work on it. Anyway. So I started looking back. Of course, we see, the great Tony Williams do this kind of stuff, sometimes with both hands and kind of going around the drums. Sometimes you turn the snare off, do that. We saw Vinnie Colaiuta do this all the time, no more than in that great old Buddy Rich scholarship video. You know, the one where he's wearing the tan suit while everyone is wearing tuxes. And he kind of looks like an 80s cop show hitman. You know that video. Anyway, he pulls that off quite a bit. He probably was practicing it right before that, and he kind of gets into the typical Vinny many times during that video. And then the second thing that was influencing me is some work in this book. Now, this book is called Off the Record. It's by David Garibaldi. And in it, he has transcribed, 9 or 10 Tower Power tunes. He did the transcriptions himself. I worked on it, and after I figured out that I was playing a lot of the grooves wrong, and I was kind of faking them after learning them off the record. Well, not out of the book off the record, but off the record. Whatever. I started realizing that not only was I kind of faking the grooves, but a lot of the fills were kind of foreign to me. All right? What was that all about? Well, I started realizing that he uses a lot of left-hand lead stickings, which then sometimes he'll sort out by throwing in a compound sticking later. But a lot of times he would start a fill with lefty, and then he moved around, and his right hand was moving around, and his left hand was kind of stationary on the snare drum. That was probably coming because he was kind of coming out of the big band mode, where that's more prevalent. But then I started also checking out some things. There were a lot of fills that he had where he was playing 16th notes in the hands, and he would be playing the E's and U's on the bass drum. So as in the intro, when I played Soul Vaccination, that intro, that starts lefty. As you could hear, I have the bass drum, Okay, there's lots of fills in this book that have that feature, that idea. The second place, probably Tower Power's most popular song, What Is Hip? We talk about the ending. Now, I think I always played that ending kind of like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not that. It's actually 16th notes in the hands with the bass drums on not just the offbeat, but he actually puts it in on the E, too. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so that was throwing me. As you can see, I'm still not totally comfortable, so I needed to come up with an exercise. So let's move to that exercise. All right, so for this exercise, we're going to go back to our old friend, Stick Control by George Lawrence Stone, page 5. In some of my other videos, I've already had some other ideas using page 5. We all have these ideas. It's a common thing to take page 5 and come up with exercises that help us out both on the snare drum and the drum set. So we're going to take that, and we're kind of going to borrow an idea from Alan Dawson. Alan Dawson has this exercise in his, well, not his book, but the book that George Ramsey wrote, but he would teach this idea of playing the stick control in eighth notes, not too fast, and then add single stroke 16ths in either hand, or just following the path of page 5, column 1. So we're going to borrow from that. So the idea here is we're going to play stick control the sticking as written, the 2 bars there, in cut time, 1/8 notes. That would be like this, right, left, right for number 1. And in between that, we're going to put a bass drum on the E and of those strokes, okay? So we're going to play that for 2 bars, and then we're going to throw, we're going to double time the hands, and now we will be playing 16th notes in the hands, but the E's and the U's will remain. And I have a stop on the written exercise just so we can move to the next one, but this is what it's going to sound like. So this is number 1. Okay, very simple, but it's a challenging thing to keep your bass drum just going E, E, Don't whack at it. Just try to find that good spot where you can kind of throw it out and coordinate it with the hands. I'll do number 2. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now as you move through these and through the column, you're going to find some more challenges. Obviously, more compound stickings like paradiddles, and then the 3-in-1s, the last 4 of them, are going to be more challenging to do this. Things to keep in mind is, again, you're trying to keep your hands even. The bass drum, again, as I mentioned, find a way that you're going to play it and then stick with it for a while. Are you going to play that heel down? That's fine, okay? You can play it all heel up. That's great too. But just keep in mind, even when you speed the tempo up, your bass drum is moving fairly quickly. Let me give you an example. I'll do the doubles. So number 3. Okay. If I ask you to just sit and play 1/8 notes on your bass drum, everyone can do that. It's just a little bit of a challenge because you're mixing into an odd sticking, and it's on the odd counts, or the E's and U's. So it can be a little challenging, but you'll have a lot of fun with it after a while. I'll do one more. I'll do number 5, paradiddle. Okay, I'll just stop there, but you could play the complete exercise. As you get better at these, speed the exercise, or you can cut one of the repeats so it doesn't take so long, but sooner or later you'll start building that up and it'll just be kind of automatic. Things to keep in mind is number 2. Number 2 is actually kind of the same thing that David Garibaldi does quite a bit, because you're starting with your left hand. And then the 3-in-1s are very interesting and a little more challenging. The 3-in-1s are the last 4 in the column. So give it a whirl, speed that up. So I'm not going to leave jazz out here, of course, so I'm going to do it, similar exercise, just going to adjust a little bit. First of all, I'm going to take away a few of the repeats here. What I'm going to do is I'm essentially playing quarter notes in the hands, and I'm playing the offbeat 1/8 note in the bass drum, okay? And then I will double time the hands, so I'm playing swung 1/8 notes in the hands. I like to add this little 1/8 note triplet tag on the end of this one to make the switch. It just works on a couple of little different things. Gives me something to play a little differently to make sure I'm in the triplet mode, so to speak. This is what it sounds like. I'll just do number 1 just to show you. All right, so work on those exercises, speed them up, do different things like that. It's a lot of fun to be able to play that sticking and kind of, work between the hands and get some speed on it. But just remember, you're really not playing your bass drum all that fast on this exercise. It's just that you're really you're developing a fine level of control over where you're placing that bass drum, okay? A little bit of practice on this exercise, and I promise you, after a little bit, you'll be able to pull off those with no problem. All right, have fun, and again, if you like this video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, have a good one and keep practicing. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing to the Drum Woodshed channel. Questions, requests for PDF versions of this lesson, or inquiries to study online with Darren Scorza can be sent to drumwoodshed@gmail.com. Thanks again.